All right, guys, strap in. This is going to be so much fun. Today, we are talking with Amberly Lago. Amberly is one of my new favorite people on the planet. She's also a mindset coach and a fitness expert. Listen, she is also a thought leader on the subjects of resilience and personal transformation. Two big topics we talk about on Dream Think Do a lot because they matter. She's got a best-selling book you've got to check out. It's called True Grit and Grace, which I love. And she's also got a wildly popular podcast by the same name. So you got to check both of those things out. Trust me, you will thank me when you do. Now, if you hear phrases like true grit and grace or perseverance, resilience, you might wonder what's made her an expert on those things. And a number of things in her life have prepared her for that. But one of the big ones is, get this, at 38, she was a successful dancer, a model, a fitness coach. Really, in many ways, she and her husband were living the life of her dreams. Like, she was doing the things she felt created to do. And then a near-death motorcycle accident changed everything. And as you'll hear, she had to fight for her healing. She had to dig deep to overcome some incredibly tough circumstances, some of which continue on. But she's found ways to not only persevere, but thrive. And I got to tell you, when I came across her story and I thought about, our million dream goal this year, I thought Amberly is the person I want to talk to about how do we go after dreams, but stay the course no matter what, because that's something she's done. She's passionate about helping other people do that. So I selfishly wanted to get her on the show to talk about just that. So let's get to this. Amberly, welcome to Dream Think Do.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for that beautiful introduction.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I always say a good introduction is my gift to my guests. So
Can you
I'm
hang
happy
out
to
with
do
me
it.
all the time?
Well,
Just
I got to
come.
tell you, my first iteration of it was 45 minutes. So we wouldn't have actually gotten to the podcast. I had to cut it down. So our good friend, Laura Gassner Odding got us in touch. And, we were going back and forth and I realized, oh my gosh, Amberly's story is so amazing. And I know you probably wouldn't wish some of the challenges that you faced on anybody, but I'm also guessing you wouldn't give them up for anything. So I want to talk about, the accident, what happened there, but also, how you have found ways to just thrive. And so I'm so excited about talking about this. So let's talk about the accident just a little bit because you've been featured on the Today Show. You've been on the Hallmark Channel. I mean, this story has really blown people away, and it makes sense that it has. I mean, it's absolutely an amazing story. So give us the PG version because we could go R-rated because this thing was gruesome, I can say. But give us kind of the PG version of what happened.
Thank you. Yes,
Yeah.
actually, I posted some pictures of like a transformational picture on Instagram of my leg and like a quick video.
Yeah.
And my daughter, who's 12, said, "Mom, you need to really post or warn people, do a trigger warning."
For
And I'm like,
real.
"What's that?" And so I think sometimes I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that's a lot for people to see." And at the time, I was living the life of my
Yeah.
dreams.
You had worked hard to get it, but yes, absolutely.
I
Right.
had worked hard to get it. I had been married twice. This was my third marriage. Finally got the
Yeah.
man of my dreams.
There it is.
And in the blink of an eye, everything changed
Yeah.
when an SUV hit me on my motorcycle. And I really had no idea just how much it would change my life, how I would reinvent myself. And so I want to share with, who's listening that you're never too old. You're never
Yeah.
too, you don't have to go to a fancy school. Like I don't have a college education. And I really have learned resilience in the messy, sometimes really challenging halls of life. And that is
Yep.
something that we all have within us and that we can tap into. I woke up from a coma after my motorcycle accident, and doctors said, "Well, we're going to have to take your leg. We're going to have
Yeah.
to amputate. You have a 1% chance. So it's
1%.
basically a war wound."
Right.
And so I said, "Oh, well, there's 1%, then there's still a chance.
There's still a chance.
There's still
Yeah,
a chance.
absolutely. That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah." And luckily, well, it really took an act of God
Yeah.
and a lot of miracles along the way to get me transferred to a different hospital, and a man by the name of Dr. Wiss, surgery by surgery, 34 in
I was just
total,
going to
put
say
my leg.
34 surgeries. That is incredible. And 3 months in the hospital for that first round, right?
The
Like,
first round, it was
yeah,
about 3 months. But the real journey began when I got home from the hospital, and it was
sure.
like, oh God, so what am I going to do? I
Right.
mean, we're $2.9 million worth of medical bills. I'm out of
Wow.
work. I'm
Wow.
completely deformed, disfigured, scarred up. Who's going to hire me as a trainer? I felt broken.
Sure.
I was hopeless. I had no confidence, and I was in extreme physical pain because I was diagnosed with complex regional pain syndrome. And when I found out that this disease, dubbed the suicide disease, is
Right.
incurable, that's when I really started spiraling down into a depression.
I bet, because I mean, it's one thing to have the accidents, one thing to have all the surgeries. And it really was a miracle to go from 1% possibility to actually saving your leg, but then to be diagnosed with this. And like you said, it's the suicide disease, which is a horrible moniker, but it's because it basically is unrelenting. And there's, lots of different ways to try to deal with it. But, that is a really tough thing that I know breaks a lot of people. So, I mean, you were getting hit with curveball after curveball here.
Yeah, and when I found out, I remember I went to the doctor and he said, "You've got something very serious." And I was like, "Yeah." I said, "I was hit by an SUV." And
Yeah.
I was so proud to be on crutches. Like they said it would take me 2 years to be upright. And it's
Wow.
been 4 months and I'm upright. And he said, "Well, you need to go home and get back in your wheelchair." And I was like, "Okay, for how long?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Forever. You are going to be permanently disabled. You'll never work again." And the list
Wow.
went on and on. And I was in tears all the way home.
I
And
bet.
then I got home, changed my clothes, went to physical therapy, and he said, "Amberly, what are you doing here? You don't have an appointment today." And I said, "Well, I know I don't, but I've just learned something, and I'm going to have to work harder than I've ever worked before if I want to have the life that I've always imagined." Now, that has not been pretty. It's been
Yeah.
messy. I've made mistakes. It drove me down a dark path until I learned that we can't keep sucking up the pain. And,
Yeah.
growing up in Texas, it was like I learned cowgirl up, get her
Right.
done,
Yeah.
hide your crazy and be a lady. And
I love it. Yeah.
well, it
We might
works
have some of the
until it
same
didn't.
relatives. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
And you know what? Suck it up got me far,
Yeah.
but it really, to be resilient, it's not just about gritting it out and being
Yeah.
tough. It's really letting our feelings rise to the surface, as hard as that may be, because
Yeah.
pain demands to be heard. And I think so many of us now don't want to feel, and we want the quick fix, and we
Right.
want to maybe drink too much or eat too much or shop or maybe speed date or
Yeah.
whatever it
Yeah.
is. But unless we really learn to let these emotions rise to the surface and we can start to heal that trauma, it drives every aspect of our life, the way we love,
Yep.
the way we live, parent, the way we lead. And it wasn't until I could really take a look at my life and accept where I was on my journey that
Yeah.
I started to really recover mentally, physically, and spiritually.
That's amazing. Yeah, you had to acknowledge the things you were up against. I think so many people say, okay, well, I'm not going to look at the weeds. If I don't look at them, they're not going to be there, but they stay there and they grow, right? But
Hmm.
you have said, hey, you have to acknowledge that pain. You have to talk that out. You have to address it and go after it. And you did go after it. Now, can I say, and I've watched a bunch of the interviews, and I've not seen anybody say it yet, and I have to say it. And I never want to celebrate the accident, although I completely celebrate how you have recovered from it. But
Mhm.
can I also celebrate that? And I want to be very clear. It's particularly badass that you were actually, it was your motorcycle. You were not riding with somebody else, right? Like that is particularly badass. I just got to say that like you were riding, was it Ventura Boulevard or whatever on your own motorcycle, right?
Yeah.
I just want to
Yeah.
clarify that you're not on somebody else's bike. Like you are, this is your motorcycle and this SUV hit you. I just think that's particularly badass. I just wanted to say it.
Well, thank you. Can I say when I started dating my husband, he were sitting there, we went to lunch and he goes, "Well, I ride a motorcycle." And I was like, "You do? I do too." And he goes, "No, you don't. Let me see your license. Do you have a class M1 license?" And
That's
I was like,
hilarious.
"Yeah." And so I was like, that's the only reason he went out on a second date with me, because I
That
ride
is
a
awesome.
motorcycle.
I love it. I love it. You and my wife would totally hang out. She's that same kind of way. Just like there's an adventure. Heck yeah, I'm in. So I love that. I just want to acknowledge that because I just think it's amazing. All right. So let's go back to that because here's the thing. Obviously, what you were up against were tremendous odds, incredible challenges, and real pain. Like not just emotional pain, which is very real, but you were experiencing. I mean, I know based on what I've understood about the complex regional pain syndrome, which sounds awful, it was like you had fire ants biting your leg all the time. Like this is real pain. What I
Mhm.
want to hear though is because I know an extreme example, but I know there's a whole lot of people that are up against something, right? And here we are, we're
Mhm.
working on this whole crazy dream of helping each other to launch a million dreams this year. And we're saying we want to do it no matter what 2021 throws at us, which I know is a dangerous thing, but I think we do have to be ready for that because life, right? Life
Mhm.
happens. And that's what I want to hear about is because you really did say, all right, that's what one doctor's saying is I should just go and live the rest of my life in a wheelchair. Nobody's ever going to hire me. And you went home and said, maybe, but
Mhm.
I'm going to set some new dreams. I'm going to go for it. And so I want to talk with you about that, especially from the standpoint of how do we learn from that, right? Like what were some of those things that you decided in your mind or had to do for yourself to say, all right, that's one person's prediction, which
Mhm.
we're always going to get those kind of predictions from somebody, right? Whether it's the reality or a grumpy uncle or whatever, somebody's always going to have dire predictions for those things that we hope and dream to do. So, how did you fight back? Like, what were some of those things you chose to do or you did to help you muster that courage at that time?
Well, I think that's such a great question. And when I look back, I think that one of my defaults is to not just look for the positive, but my immediate reaction when something happens that doesn't go as planned. Like, in fact, just last month, my daughter and I were riding our scooters in a crosswalk and got hit by a car, both of us.
Wow.
And in the ambulance, in the back of the ambulance, and I know this might sound crazy to be in the back of an ambulance and thinking this, but I thought, okay, I said, okay, God, I pray my daughter's okay. I pray everything's okay. But what did I not learn from the other two times? Because I've been hit two other times
Okay.
that I need to learn right now. I
Yeah.
ask of you, what do I need to learn that I didn't get? So my mind
Wow.
goes to what can I do next?
Mm.
And what can I learn from this? And
Wow.
gratitude. Because
Even
I
in the
think,
ambulance. I got to admit, like I might do that, but I don't know that I'd be able to pull that off in the ambulance. That's amazing. Did you get a response as you prayed that, as you asked that? And we're big fans of prayer right here. So
well,
yeah,
what's so crazy is, so the week before that happened,
yeah.
my daughter, I was walking across the street. We're walking into Michael's to get some arts and crafts. And she looks at me, she goes, Mama, she goes, you know what? I think you've used all your 9 lives. I don't think you have any more lives left. And I said, well, I guess I was limping pretty bad that day.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what, baby? I said, you're right. I said, it's time to live full out. So when we
Wow.
were released from the hospital, I looked at her and I said, you know what, Ruby? I said, I guess I had one more in me. I said, our guardian angels are working overtime.
Yeah,
And
right?
the message I really got, like, I really believe in the power of prayer. And if I
Yep.
don't have an answer, I pray on it, and in the morning I have an answer. It's sometimes
Wow.
maybe not what I want to hear, but
Right, right.
I get an
Yep.
answer.
Yep.
And my answer was, once the CAT scan came back okay, and I observed how my daughter was acting in the hospital and just how I was and how the
Yeah.
nurses and doctors were reacting to us versus the lady next to us. And I know
Wow.
you shouldn't get into comparison, but they could feel the gratitude in
Yeah.
us, and they were so helpful and so
Hmm.
loving and like brought us food, and they could feel that. um my answer to that was, I'm not playing big enough. I
Yeah.
need to. And what I mean by that is, I need to impact more people in a positive way. And how can I do that? How can I get through my fear? Because I still have fear.
Yeah.
And I'm like for me, I love, we said a little prayer before we started this
Yeah.
recording. So a couple of days ago, I'm set up to do an interview, and and you had just said, God is funny, God,
Yeah.
and we see signs, and I ask for things, and boy, do I get them. And sometimes not in a good way.
Yeah.
But I feel like that anyway. So I'm
Yeah.
asked to do this interview, and I get on the interview, and the guy said, okay, this is how we're going to do the interview. We're doing it in segments, and you're going to take your phone and flip it and talk to your phone. And I try to do that, and it's so uncomfortable for me. And I stop and I look at him, and I said, you know what? Hate's a 4-letter word in our
Yeah.
family. I said, but I hate videoing myself like a selfies. It's so uncomfortable for me.
Yeah.
And this is so scary for me. And I said, you know what? God brought you in my life for a reason. I said, because this is a fear of mine, and you're here to change my life in the best way. So it's all how we look at something, how
Absolutely. I
having a
love that.
perspective shift,
Yep.
can
Yep.
really change things up. And so I think that when we're open minded, things come to us like
Yeah.
that.
Well, and I love that. I mean, being open, but I also think, finding gratitude. There's a whole lot of people that, if they got hit by a car on a scooter, the last emotion they're going to try to tap into is gratitude, right? There's going to be a lot of
Oh,
people that are going to be frustrated with that driver and frustrated with the ambulance technician who's not moving fast enough, and frustrated or embarrassed or scared or whatever. And it is amazing how, you know, uh, from gratitude is such a powerful thing. And I love from that story that you're
it's
talking
life
about, it
changing.
is life changing. I mean, obviously, we've talked about how that actually changes us on the inside. It also changes our perspective. But in your case, like you're talking about, like you guys started to, there was a wake behind you of gratitude, which changed the hallways, which changed the room. And I can only imagine, not in some mamby-pamby rainbows and butterflies, everything's always perfect always, but more so just like gratitude, deep gratitude. People could see that. And obviously the other,
It,
the interview example is
yeah.
another good one of being able to see, you could have been mad at that interviewer for pushing you, but you actually found a way to flip that and say, I'm grateful you're pushing me out of my comfort zone. Let's do this, right? Like
Mhm.
that gratitude is such a powerful tool. And I know you lean on that. I know you've talked about how important that is to, do the gratitude list and to be able to say, all right, today, what am I grateful for? And I think that that is so, so powerful.
And
I love that.
our kids learn from us.
Yeah.
They watch everything we do.
Yep.
And when we were leaving the hospital, so the x-rays, not one broken bone,
Wow.
one broken bone. Now my thumb's still messed up, but because I tried to put my hands out to stop the car from hitting us, like to
Of
hit
course
it
you
from
did.
hitting my
Because you're
daughter.
a mom. Of course you did.
Yes.
You're a superhero mom. Yeah.
Well, I tell you, when we walked out of the hospital, we were kind of limping out a little bit. And
Sure.
Ruby, my 12-year-old, said, Mama, she goes, we rolled in here on a gurney, and we are walking out like champions. I said, you're right, baby. We have
That is
so
great.
much to be grateful for.
Yeah.
And I every night when we get in bed, I always ask my daughter, I said, Ruby, what was the best thing that happened to you today? And what's one thing you're grateful for? Now, a lot of times it can be silly,
Yep.
but at least she's getting into that
Yep.
practice.
It's so true. And it's amazing. I just had somebody on that is getting her PhD kind of around this subject. It's absolutely fascinating. And one of the things she talked about is that obviously part of the power is stirring up gratitude. And part of the power of that exercise is training our brain to look for things that we're going to be grateful for. Like your Ruby knows you're going to probably be asking that. So her brain, either consciously or subconsciously, is looking for things throughout the day so that she's got something to tell mom at night. Like that's amazing. So I love that you do that. And I just so respect that. So let's shift gears here a little bit, because I know, here, like you said, you were beat up, right? And you chose to take that 1% and say, all right, I'm going to take that 1% as a promise and I'm going to build on it, right? But let's talk about, because I know that a lot of people are thinking about what their dreams are, what they want to go after this year, big or small. And we have talked about, some dreams are going to be to write a book or to start a business. Other dreams are going to be to walk in joy, to experience gratitude more, those kinds of things. So it can really span the spectrum. But after an event like what you experienced with the accident, everything's tender, right? Like, physically, but also that ability to dream when you're looking at medical bills, that ability to
Hmm.
dream when the way that you've made money in the past is not a
Hmm.
guarantee of your future. What do you recommend? Maybe when you see somebody in that spot now, what are some of
Hmm.
the things you recommend to that person that wants to dream, right? They want to go after the million dreams with us, but they're like, "Ah, it's just still too tender, or I'm still just not sure." What are a couple things you recommend to that person, whether it's perspective or actions to go after?
Well, I think that it's awesome to have big dreams
Yeah.
and big goals, like those dreams that like they actually send a little wave of adrenaline through your body, that
Yep.
it like it's scary and exciting. But I think that the only way that I got through 34 surgeries
Yeah.
and get through daily chronic pain and don't give up is because I'm sure you've heard this before. I even put it on my Instagram this morning. Start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can.
Amen.
And for me, I focus on the 1%. So if I were, when I got home from the hospital, I lost 20 pounds of muscle.
Wow.
I went from being this elite athlete to having bed sores and not even being able to use the bathroom on my own. So, my big dream
Wow.
and my big goal was to be able to stand up long enough to walk on crutches to go use the bathroom on my own. And I started there and I
Wow.
couldn't do that. But instead of getting discouraged by the fact that I couldn't use the bathroom on my own, I was like, okay, well, what else can I do? I can stand up for 1 second. Well, I'm going to do that tomorrow. I'm going to stand up for 3 seconds.
Yeah.
The next day, I remember the physical therapist came over and she's like, okay, we're going to do it. I said, I'm going to stand up for 10 seconds today.
Wow.
And standing up, and I was shaking because I was hurting, but I knew if I didn't push myself that
Yep.
1%
Yep.
every day, the 1%, the one, then I was just going to be stuck in this bed forever.
Mm.
And I wanted to do things like I wanted to be able to chase after my daughter. And one of my goals was to train clients again.
Yeah.
And I remember a friend coming over and she goes, well, what are you going to do? You can't train clients anymore. And I was like, what? I just burst into tears. Like, what do you
Wow.
mean I can't
Yeah.
train
Yeah.
clients? So I think it's really taking time, intentional time, and really being intentional about what does your heart want? What does your gut say? What does bring you joy? And start doing more of that, because people are always going to have opinions and there's
Yep.
nothing wrong with that. But I had so many naysayers and so many, people saying, oh, well, you never wear shorts again because you are too scarred up and you'll never
Wow.
work again. And if there is, look, I'm a small town girl. I just recently bought a desktop. When I decide I have this little bitty computer that I bought 4 years ago,
Yeah.
and because I hand wrote my entire book and then had, bought a laptop to type it up and had to take a class at Mac. And the guy was like, I have to just say something. I've never had anybody here in a class that's not embarrassed to ask as many questions as you. And I said, you know what? I am not too proud to ask
Yeah.
questions. I don't know how to do this and I want to get better. So
Good for
if you
you.
have the willingness
Yeah.
to do what it, like when I got sober, I was so willing. I was like, okay, I'm going to do whatever my sponsor says because I want to be sober. I want to be dignified again. I want to be the wife that my husband married. I want to be
Yeah.
better. And so when you want something bad enough, if you're willing and you tap into that passion and that grit and give yourself grace along the way, the sky is limitless. You can do anything you want.
I love it. Good Lord. Dream Think Doers, can you tell exactly why I just thought Amberly's the perfect person to be talking with us right now?
Hmm.
And we've been talking with Amberly Lago. Her book, you got to go get the book and check out the podcast called True Grit and Grace. Again, you'll thank me, but you can tell she's a dream think doer from the word go. So I love this. So let's send people out with one last pearl of wisdom, especially for that person that's on the fence. That's like, all right, Amberly, I'm with you, but what's that last little bit of encouragement to just kind of shove them over the edge to allow themselves to say, all right, I'm going to dream. Maybe I'm going to start small, go after those steps, walk in gratitude, all those things. What would be one last piece of wisdom you'd want to leave them with?
Something that I really struggled with was my self-worth. And I really
Yeah.
was had so much shame and embarrassed about the way I looked. And I really had to find, and build my self-confidence and self-worth. And so I think that I would love, if you're listening and you, like me, struggle with any kind of imposter syndrome
Yeah.
or fear or, just kind of thinking, I don't know if I can do that. You have the ability, if you do, just one day at a time,
Mm,
focus on 1%. So the little things like this morning, I thought I need to take time to work on my health. So
yeah.
that means I'm going to have to wake up at 5 so I can get a workout. But by doing that, it's not even for the way I look or my health. It's really for my mindset
Yep.
and my confidence because I'm like, okay, I said I'm going to do that and I did it. So that's one big check on your scorecard that slowly starts to build your confidence. So if you have some big dream or scary goal that's like, I don't know how I'm going to do that, if you just do one thing at a time, one day at a time,
Yeah.
kind of like I, wrote my book. If somebody like me with not even a college education can write a book, I know the only reason I bring that up again, because I think it's something like 80% of people want to write a book.
Yep.
But we need your book. We need to hear your message. And you just need to write, even if it's a paragraph, even if it's a page or a whole chapter. Get up and set time aside for you to do what your heart is begging you to do.
Yeah.
Just take time for yourself every day.
I love it. I get the sense that somebody who was just listening was like, I'm going to write a book. I want to write a book. Maybe my big dreams a book. And then you bring up write a book and that person just was like, so if that's you, write the dang book. I love it. Amberly, you are the bomb. How do people find out more about you?
Come visit me at amberlylago.com, or you can check out my behind the scenes crazy videos on Instagram at Amberly Lago Motivation. Also, there are free downloadable gifts there. So if you want to
Awesome.
grab the Goals, Grit, and Grace workbook, if you want to, gratitude has changed my life. So I have a downloadable gratitude journal. Anything you need, you can please reach out at 818-214-7378. You can text me. I'm not just saying reach out because I'm saying reach out. I'm saying really, I
You
struggled
mean
to
it.
ask for help.
Yeah.
And it's me texting you back. So it might take me a minute to text you back because it is me,
Yeah.
but text me. You're never alone on this journey. And my favorite part of the whole journey has been connection. I think that's powerful when we can do things together. So
I love it.
thank you so much for having me
Absolutely.
here.
You are the bomb, my friend. Thank you so much. And we appreciate you. We'll put all of that in the show notes too, so people can find it and find you and get to hang out. So keep bringing the awesome into the world that you're doing. We so appreciate you.
Thank you.